I think your album's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I actually have like
Thank you so much.
I have a crick in my neck because I've been head banging to it so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Something so impressive about this album is how perfectly you balance industrial metal and industrial or noise hip hop. Um, did
Thank
you
you.
did you have anything you refer to that inspired that balance, or did you feel like you were charting like new territory, bringing those two things together?
I think it was mostly just I'm like I spend a lot of time sequencing albums. So like when I have like this section of tracks, I'll listen to it like 100 times or even like 50 times just to see how it all fits together. And uh, I think the main element pushing it forward was the journey. Um, I wanted to take people on this journey, and if the sounds complement each other, because it starts off really harsh, and as you're going, those harsher frequencies kind of subsidize just a bit, not a lot, but just a bit. And I think part of my mind was like, well, the industrial metal stuff that I do has got these harsher frequencies, and this industrial hip hop beats as well. I've got these harsher frequencies, and in terms of putting them together, they just fit like a Jenga piece. Like
Mm.
when the clipping beat and Code Orange beats came through, it was just like very easy to. I just knew exactly where they were gonna go, and yeah, it was very educational in that point. And thank you so much for listening.
How did they come through Code Orange and clipping? How did that happen?
Man, that was so wild. I put it out on Twitter.
Mm.
I just like put it out on Twitter, and I was like, it'd be so dope if I got like a beat from Code Orange right now, or what would be so dope is if I got a beat from Clifton right now, and
Mm.
they came through. They sent the instrumentals, and I was completely floored, and I took time with it because I just didn't want to rap on it. Like how like if somebody is, if somebody sends you the beat, you don't just want to start writing. You want to come up with like a concept that really connects you to the beat. And that's how Blood in the Water and Nine Hells came about. And I'm just like really, really grateful that I could be in that space with them.
How does it feel now after you release God Has Nothing to Do with This? Now you kind of have like press attention. You're kind of you know you you're kind of in a spotlight in a way. How does it this rollout feel?
It's surreal. It's really surreal. Just like 2 years ago, I was like, spending like $10 on Submit Hub
Yeah.
just so that one even interested blogger just like does a write up, and now, you got a few people that are interested, and that's a confidence booster, and it kind of gives us the impression that we are on the right path, and very, very grateful because all the people who I've talked to have been legitimately interested, and that's pretty important uh, for me.
If I were to address the lyrics on this album, it would kind of feel inappropriate. Do you know what I mean? Because it is so raw and it feels like you've already said everything on the record anyway. I was just wondering if you are used to having to talk about the things you talk about in your music in these kinds of settings.
Yeah, I think it mostly depends on who's asking the questions. I think if the person asking me has a kind of like a good energy towards it, and it doesn't feel as if they're like kind of prodding for, you know, a headline, I have like no problem talking about it because this is what we go through. I think I usually have a problem when it feels as if the journalist doesn't really care, just need it for the story. Um, but like if somebody's coming at it with like a genuine interest, um, I I usually don't mind.
You're staying completely independent. I guess you don't. Do you have anyone you can, like talk to about this kind of stuff when press ask you these kinds of questions, ask you to bring up your trauma because that's what's on the album?
Yeah, we are. It's just me and my partner running the ship, and we are learning. We are definitely learning. You know, throughout the different projects that you put out, um, you I guess you get like relationships with publications and journalists, and you kind of get a feel of your experiences from last time. So, if we see a name which is like, oh, this is the same person who wasn't as nice as last time, we'll see if maybe we can get a framework of the type of questions that are being asked. And if we can receive that, then we can go ahead with like the interview. It's a learning experience. We have to learn a lot of things actually. Even we were just recently asking ourselves how much do we charge for like a show in terms of like if somebody wants to book us, because we've also been out of the performances in a bit. So yeah, it's just us learning pretty much.
Mm. Is that you and Merchant Vaporwave?
Yeah. That's them. The superhero. They have worked so well at just forming the aesthetic, and I'm very very grateful for them all the time.
What's your relationship?
We started off as friend and you know artist to art to creative director, a type of relationship, and we just realized we had a deeper connection, so we're going out now.
That's so nice. Do you guys live together?
No, not yet, not yet. But once things open up, and once I get like the medical care that I'm yearning for, is when I'll be more open to like moving.
Do you want to talk about the medical care, or shall we skip past that? Just if you want to. I just want to learn about you. Just whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Yeah. So I'm waiting to get hormone replacement therapy, and um, yeah, I've been on the wait list for a few months now. So I think it's gonna take like a maximum of 9 months. So I'm just waiting until that hits, and that's when I can be able to kind of like make bigger decisions going forward.
I want to learn more about the image of someone buried wearing their dresses and their rings. How did that come to you?
That actually came from me watching Haunting of Bly Manor, and uh, yeah, the lady in the lake during that retrospective episode said something. I had a concept of doing an album that concentrates on pain, the idea of pain.
Mm.
And once that lady in the show said, "Just bury me with like my rings and my dresses," I was like, "Oh, that like definitely connects to to what I want this, project to be about, and it just fits so well with the content and the imagery as well. And uh, yeah, from there I just went ahead and put it as a title.
Hmm. That the starting track, the what is that sample? The guy saying takes a little bit of pain.
Yeah, it's from a pain therapy tape. So a buddy of mine found these tape loops from this therapist that's talking about um, what pain means to you. And this album is very unlike the previous album in terms of, in the previous album there was a bit of optimism there was kind of like defiance, and this one is just kind of like, yeah, we're throwing that out of the window. If God has nothing to do with it, was the protagonist kind of like fighting all of these tribulations and being triumphant in the end. This one is like the protagonist is taking all the hits and just bleeding to death. So it's a bit more bleak.
Is that an interesting challenge to you to create something that is devoid of any hope or optimism? Or does that just make sense as part of this trilogy of albums you're making?
I think it was both in the sense that it makes sense, but again, it was challenging. Not really challenging, but it was very interesting thing creatively, because I feel as if a lot of albums that go into this type of territory tell that arc of, went through some hardships, but I'm okay now.
Yeah.
But it's nice to kind of have something that's different, in which, because that's such a, I feel like it's such an uncharted territory
Mm-hmm.
for music and projects to be made that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I just find it interesting as well.
I think when we listen to pop music, especially, there's such a currency and resilience. Like we don't
Yeah,
don't really care about the actual pain. It's more about the overcoming, and that's what they listen to
yeah,
when they go to music.
yeah,
And
yeah,
to have the melancholy rather than the resilience makes you,
yeah,
it's people try and avoid pain all the time. Um, but it's so I think it's so important to actually experience pain.
yeah,
And also, yeah, I love this album because it has no hope.
yeah, yeah. I think it's my favorite one that I've put out so far. It's when I was doing like previous interviews, you have people saying, I think they were trying to like twist it to find a bit of optimism. Because some journalists were like, well, because it's I guess it's empowering to kind of embrace the pain, and I think they didn't get the idea that being empowered is a theme that shouldn't even be close to this part of work. This is,
Yeah.
this is like my bleakness, and that's totally fine. There's a space for a lot of bleak stuff. Not everything has to be a testament of like resilience, as you said. We should have pieces for art that just veers on to hopelessness.
It feels like you have to be empowered, you know? People expect
Yeah,
to be empowered, but it's totally not reflective of the way that the world treats you, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So I think this album is valuable in that way, but it's also just really fucking good.
Thank you.
Yeah. When you're recording these songs, do you have an audience in mind?
That's an interesting question. I don't think I do. I think it's just like me and and like the microphone, which is like very interesting because a big part of me at the studio is feeling comfortable at the place that I'm at, kind of feel it out. And, once the recording happens, it's almost like it's just a spotlight with me and the microphone in this like dark place. There's part of, I guess, the audience that I have in mind, and that's when like the project is finished and wondering how people are going to receive this, because I guess there are people. What I've come to grips over the last 12 months is like, the people that are listening to my music are of all ages, and there's kind of like that boundary of, for me being this vulnerable and graphic, how much care do I really have to put towards the person who might listen to this and get triggered. It's a very like hard problem to solve, but it's one that I think about a lot.
When you're recording, do you get into the zone easily? Like, is your mood sustained throughout the whole thing?
Yeah, it's pretty much very easy to get into the zone, mostly because in order to use the right delivery for a song, your heart has to be in it. I find you can't really fake a passion delivery, and your heart has to be in the lyrics that you're putting down. And a good example of that is Lil Wayne. I feel like dying. The way he approaches that, and that's why I was very like really influenced by that song on Nine Hills. But the way he approaches that delivery is so it's very interesting, because even that song in itself has got no signs of resilience. There's no like happy ending at the end. It's bleak. And playing around with those concepts, kind you know is what I was drawing on. But the care also has to be put towards the audience, and it's a hard problem to solve, that's for sure.
What's your relationship been like with sampling this time around after, being so liberal last time?
Yeah. the I think the approach is a bit different this time.
Hmm.
So last one was full of samples, but I think this one has got less samples. All of the samples that we used are cleared, and most of it was just me programming on my computer all of these different sounds, as well as pulling from non-traditional sources. Like on Terra Packets, there's a sample of a cat stretched out, and just like interesting things like that. And my approach to, I guess, sources has also like influenced what type of sounds and sonics I'm able to make.
Did you kind of treat the influences of this album like samples?
I think it makes sense. It's kind of like feeling like being in love with the mood uh, that a certain song gives you, rather than being in love with the actual section. So I think that would be like a nice way to put it.
When you draw upon these samples or these influences, is it like a history lesson to you, or are you just trying to stitch yourself together using these different samples?
Yeah, I think that's mainly me pulling from all of my influences, and kind of like, but still trying to find or still having an identity. Kind of like how Kanye West, borrowed from all the music that he used to listen to, but he still has his central identity.
I feel like the journey from your last album to this one is mercy to malevolence. Does that transition make sense to you? And are you hoping to resolve the third one in hope, or would you like to going down this, you know?
I think I'm not going down that path of resilience because I think that's the that's the path that people wanted to end it on. You know, it's like, all right, the second one was bleak, so maybe there's some hopefulness in the next one, but we've heard that soul story
Mm.
so many times, and if these are like real experiences and real stories, so I guess in the real world, things don't usually happen that way, and you know the way I have my the way I have my mind in right now, um, I don't think there'll be much hope on the next the next one as well.
Is is your hopelessness? I mean, is that because there is no hope in the world? Is that an external thing?
I think it's more like just the relationship with myself and just in terms of how that feeds into my art, it's just something that we don't usually come across.
Mm.
And that also it puts me in a weird position in terms of I don't want it to reach a point where weaponizing it. I want it to be still my as accurate and my honest feelings, but um, still that's going to influence my art. And you know, maybe one day I'll have like the brightest, you know, friendly song that will be played, you know, on all like pride shows and stuff like that. But you know, right now, right now, no, not
Ukulele
really.
backwash song
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
with a Macklemore feature.
With the Ryan Lewis like keyboard,
Yeah.
just like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, one day.
One day.
What's this is such a weird question after that. What's your relationship to God when you make this music? That's quite a loaded question.
Yeah. So I think it's almost like a lot of Christianity was a vehicle for a lot of trauma inducing stuff on me. I feel like my relationship with God is almost spiteful in a sense. Not that it's almost like, you know, when I was younger, I trusted God to, you know, be this beacon in my life. And I learned a lot about myself, and that's not really the case anymore. And I guess I'm just angry as to how that was used to silence and oppress me. And you know, even though from a spirituality standpoint, things have changed significantly, I'm still mad about what I essentially had to go through.
How does that affect how you see the material world? That's also a very loaded question.
My, I guess my perspective on the material world has changed with my faith as well. Uh, Most of it is coming from a pre-colonial mindset. You know, I'm also like a staunch leftist myself, so I guess my opinion is based on me trying to survive this material world, but not giving into what this material world requires of me. Like I will never be like tweeting out like being in the studio for 24 days straight and I've made 235 songs. Like no, like I will burn out. I don't need that. but yeah, it's just like the grind culture thing that they bake into you, tells you to do that. But I, you know, don't do that, please. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess my relationship is not trying to give into the material world, but still trying to exist in it.
Mm, mm. I think that's yeah. Thank you so much. I think that's a nice place to leave it. Um, I want to let you get on with the rest of your day. Um, but it's so nice talking
Awesome.
to you. I love this album so much. I think yeah, you're extremely
Thank you so much.
what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm very
Of
grateful.
course, I'll be listening to it for a long time, and you should just feel proud of yourself. I think for just making something so incredible.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank
thank
you. Thank you so much.
you. Have a great day. Okay,
You too. Bye bye.
take care.